And that is us live. Good evening, everyone. How are you all doing on this fine Tuesday? Hope you're all doing well. Yeah, as I've mentioned a couple of times, between proper employment, days blend together. Life is a constant mounting existential dread. But we're here to do my favourite thing, which is talk about Warhammer. And I'm joined by another member of Team England and another High Elf expert. In fact, in some ways, a better High Elf player than me. We play very different styles. No. With the sisters, you definitely. I've got a lot to learn from you, and I'm looking forwards to actually getting some practice in against you. By the way, I'd like to play some practice games against you with the sisters. I'm asking you in front of all these people, so you can't say no. But this is Charlie, our resident vampire count player, and as I say, very experienced High Elf player. How are you doing, Charlie?
I'm doing wonderful. It's a great pleasure to be here, Ed.
Excellent.
A very kind intro. All the Warhammer streamers give me the kindest intros, which I don't know. I'm not sure how much of it is true. But
Well, you're nice and you play well, so those are the two tick boxes to making people really like you. It's not hard, but some people do seem to get that bit, wrong.
all right, I'll take it.
Absolutely. And we've got some glazing in the chat as well. Carmen Ryder says Charlie is handsome, though.
Wow.
Yeah. So everyone likes you, even the viewers, which is a great place to be. Got plenty of all of the regulars here. Ginger Steve says they're all bad because Dark Elves and Wood Elves are the best elves. That's fair. I don't disagree with the theming on that. But High Elves are pretty cool as well. And they have the best dragons. So
They do.
yeah. It's hard to argue with. Trevor J says first time listening live. Everyone hit the like as you come in. That way you won't forget. Appreciate that because I'm still not great at doing all the streamer things and reminding people to like the video, subscribe. If you want to support the channel, you can become a member down below. Join the Discord. There's a VIP section for those of you at Longbeard tier and below. I'm not great at any of that, and I had to find some sort of way to seg into it.
It's awkward as a Brit, isn't it?
It's terrible. Can you please give me some money? I don't like talking about money. You go to a restaurant and it's almost a bit awkward when you ask for the bill.
Yeah,
and that's a service that you're paying for.
Yeah, no, it goes against our very being, I think.
It really does. Yeah, it really does. Krieg Hammer's here. His prediction is the Lord on Star Dragon is the best unit, followed by Sisters of Avalon. What's really nice?
Shout.
What's a really nice about this tier list is I think you and I are going to disagree about quite a few units. Not necessarily massively, but I think
except
we're have...
spearmen. We'll agree on that.
S tier, S for spearmen. Yes, no, I think we might well.
E for toilet.
Callum says, "What does he mean? Another High Elf expert?" So Callum thinks he's a Dark Elf expert. Still hasn't won a tournament with them. You can chirp up when you've managed to get that accolade under your belt.
Would that be Callum Hay by any chance?
Absolutely.
He's a fine Dark Elf player. He nearly.
He's fine. We'll say.
We played Game 4, Table 1 at the Glasgow GT, and but for a Charm Shield save from my BSB, he would have had it.
Sorry, I got distracted because I just saw in chat Ian says, are the two people who have committed the worst High Elf crimes against me? We were just talking about you before the stream went live as well. So not only are we your two, nemesis, we also conspire about you behind your back. It's it only gets worse, Ian. There's no way to go from here. Hassel Flavor says easiest tier list to date. I think there's some ones that we're going to disagree on. I think there's some interesting differences of opinion we can get into on this one. But I think now is a good as time as any to get started. So I think the best way to do this is probably just go left to right. I've ordered these as roughly as I can into characters first, then we've got all the infantry, then the cavalry, onto the chariots, monsters, and the singular war machine. I won't be doing timestamps. People ask for them in the videos. I appreciate that they're good. They do take a lot of time for me to put together, and I've got a lot of stuff that I'm doing as well. But you can see roughly where you need to be in the video just by seeing how far along the unit that you care about is down at the bottom. And, as always, if you want to disagree with my opinion, don't put it in the comments because I'm not going to read it. There is a channel on the Discord called Tier Lists, and if you want to put your money where your mouth is, I will put the tier list maker in there as well, so you can tell me exactly where you think all of the units are. Because it's really easy to say you're slightly off on that one unit, but doing it with all of the units and getting the ones that are in the middle of the board, that's where the difficulty comes in. Alrighty then. So, what we'll do is we'll start off with one, We'll talk through what it does, give a rating, throw over to the other person, see if they disagree, and go from there. So, do you want to start with the prince?
The prince, yes. Well, the prince is obviously good.
Yeah.
Goes without saying. Leadership 10 is quite rare in the old world. He disappointingly low weapon skill.
Only 7.
Bretonian Duke is a 30-year-old Frenchman who was born to wealth. And the prince is, 3,000-year-old master of arms, and they both have weapon skill 7. It's quite traumatic. Now, we can get to 8 with Calidor, which I think is often a good... underused. I think Calidor is underused on the prince. But they're good. They're good, but they mostly exist to sit on a Star Dragon, which is, with the items that we can take, the 20.5 regen, Opal Amulet, Star Dragon with the extra weapon skill, the D6 plus 1 stomp. If we're saying what tier is a prince, it's probably easier to say what tier is a prince on a Star Dragon, because that's the only way he exists, competitively at least. Of course, there's other fun ways to play him. White sword on a Sky Cutter is pretty cool. But yeah, if we think of prince as sits on a Star Dragon, has all the items he needs to do his job, I struggle with S because dragons are so counterable, but they are so good as well.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm going to reserve S for the one unit in the book that I think is truly like world class, cannot be countered if played correctly. So for me, the prince on Star Dragon will be an A.
Ooh, good. So we're starting off with a disagreement, which is excellent. Yeah. This is how I like it to be. So I think the prince is S tier. You said that dragons can be countered, and they can to an extent. You're not wrong. However, High Elves have probably the best setup for a single dragon in the game, because it's unbelievably tanky. The things that counter it, the poison shooting bricks, well, you have a 2-up save, so you're not immune to Plague of Rust, but you're a lot better against it. You also have triple save. Cool. Bretonian Lord, you can have 2 Opal Amulets. So you've got 2-up ward saves, making you near immune to Monster Slayer in time to kill that character. Obviously, the spikes, but the Bretonian player really doesn't want to try and heroic virtue of heroism that character. You have access to battle magic. I have waxed lyrical about how good battle magic is on a dragon. I'm not going to shut up about it. You can, very comfortably drop the dragon in front of a unit turn 1, super easy to do. You even get a reroll on it, which I understand that's cheating to class that inside of the dragon. That feels unfair to be like,
it all goes together.
The High Elf Dragon's good because the High Elf Mage is good. But it adds to that reliability there. And it's also cheap. The Chaos Lord, the whole package of the Chaos Lord is probably better than the High Elf Lord. If we're just being reasonable, you throw in the Warpfire Dragon and all that. Yeah. But it's also, 600 and something points for the Chaos Lord, whereas you can have a very competitive High Elf Lord for 530 points, something along those lines. And I think it's very difficult for me to see a list without a dragon and be excited to play it anyway.
No, I think I would agree with you on all those points.
Yeah.
The High Elf Dragon is the tankiest. 2-up armor for a 10-point magic item is pretty hot. 5 regen for a 20-point magic item that's common is pretty hot.
Yeah.
I also enjoy, as I said, Calidor for the free ward save and the 8 weapon skill.
Yeah.
To counter those Chaos Lords who often tick up to 8 weapon skill through the game. And it does give you that sort of clarity in your play style. I have a dragon and I'm going to use it. And it gives you an anchoring point for the rest of your army to play around, which is really powerful. Anything that simplifies this horrifically complex game is great. So I wouldn't sit here and demand it be put as A. It's more me setting out my stall that I think High Elves are stronger played in a different way, because the one thing that means for me it's not an S is because it means you cannot take a Handmaiden as your general.
Is the bridesmaid never the bride? You're a big man.
Sorry, I just got a donation there. Thank you, Steve. Just telling me that I'm silver and I need to be coached. So appreciate that. Thank you. The classic of give me money to give me abuse. I understand your perspective. I think that you're not... I don't disagree with you, but I think if we contextualize what the ranks are, which normally I do beforehand and I completely forgot, S is like a tournament staple in my eyes, and I understand that you can write lists without them, but I think if you're not going for the sisters in core, you will have a dragon lord.
Yeah.
I think it's just sort of 1A, 1B, which way you go.
If S is tournament staple, I would agree S.
Yeah, and I think I like to have it that way, because if if you just go for what is the best unit in the book, your tier list gets very squished, and you find that there's not very much at the top, especially when we get to the 15 infantry units, and we go, well, this is one of the infantry units. Where in B or C would you like to put this one? So we'll leave it there, but we can always reassess, and if you change my mind later on down the line, we can absolutely move it down.
It's S. It's S. It's just I don't play with them, so I'm
That's
biased. Fine. If I take a step back and assess the book,
sure.
It is comfortably an S for cost to power. In terms of dragons, there is no better.
I think you're not going to be upset with where sisters go as well. I think we agree on that one, so there won't be any arguments coming on down the line. So we'll move on to the noble, and the noble is obviously the number one place that you can put your battle standard bearer. You can mount it on chariots, you can mount it on a griffin, which I think is really strong. The combination that I really like is about sub 300 points, where you go battle standard bearer, war banner, lance, charmed shield, regen, Dragon Helm, if you haven't used it elsewhere, gets you to, a 2-up save, a single 5-up ward, and then a 5-up regen as well. Loads of combat rares, you can fly it around. And this is, if you're not playing with a dragon, not great. I think it's okay. But if you are playing with a dragon, it gives you that tool where you can go in, hit the front of a unit with 2 characters. One of them can be the thing that challenges out the skeleton champion or whatever, while the dragon gets to run amok through the unit. So it's very much a backup piece for the dragon if you're using it in that way. And Callum says,
make the Star Dragon S tier. Eddie Order doesn't need more grief from random internet people.
Callum giving me money to abuse me as well. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. That was more reasonable. Where was I saying? But yeah, so I think the noble on Griffin specifically is really strong if you pair it with the prince. I wouldn't argue that it's up to A tier. I think as an all-round unit, it's a reasonably flexible hero character. It's weapon skill 6. It's only 3 attacks. You can get full plate on there. You can put it BSB. There are some really good banners you can put on it. I'd be tempted to put it probably towards the bottom of A, just because I think it's a really flexible piece. And even though you have a high leadership in general, that you can also give a bubble of leadership 9 through Pure of Heart on this thing. And then the BSB as well. It's a really strong combo. In fact, maybe I'd move it up to sort of middle of A, now that I've remembered that you can give your leadership 9 bubble with also BSB rerolls, which is better than some armies get overall.
Yeah, I'm just getting the army book up here.
Yeah, no worries.
On my other screen as we are going through the things in the army book. So yeah, for me, again, as you've just done, for talking about characters, it's best to talk about how you apply them rather than, yes, you could do noble in many ways. You could make him a shadow warrior and give him the 3 shots bow and so on. There's lots of different things you can do with him. The way I like to play the noble, and again, it's quite different from yours, is when Handmaiden is your general, you're limited to 8 leadership in the army. Taking the noble, giving him Pure of Heart, giving him BSB, gives you a 9 leadership, essentially general running around, which is extremely powerful given the limitation that the Handmaiden other general otherwise applies to your army. Now it's not necessarily that needed. Usually in a Sisters of Avalorn centric list, you're not running into too many leadership tests. They're immune to psychology. They have stubborn. If they're rolling a break test, you've already lost the game. And then the utility pieces that you run around them, things like Phoenix Guard or Dragon Princes or Phoenixes themselves, are not in range of the 9 leadership bubble or don't need it. For example, Dragon Princes, for example, have 9 base. But I do, in the way that I play High Elves with a big focus on the sisters, is that the noble is a really powerful piece in the unit. He also has an insane 10-point upgrade, the Warden of Safari. So this gives the guy 3 strike first,
I was
killing
being
blows,
reasonable.
strength 6,
I didn't
AP2
start
magical
putting
attacks,
the Eye of the Tiger
which
lyrics
can
in chat as you
really
get your Rocky training
ambush your
montage.
opponent. You get
Can you
charged
shout
by Dragon
into me now?
Ogres, one of them just disappears out of nowhere, and no one's expecting it because they look through his items at the start of the game. All right, he's got full plate and a halberd, okay. But if you have Warden of Safari and you take the Sword of Hoeth, killing blow for free is pretty amazing. So I really like the noble in the way that I run it. The way that you run it with the on the monstrous creature flying around with the BSB and the war banner. I was actually on Dowie After Dark's channel last year talking about the exact same concept, but I ran it on a Sun Dragon at the time.
Nice.
Because it has the full stomp, man. It has the full D6 Thunder Stomp. And your Calidor, so your noble is 7 weapon skill, which is pretty good. So yeah, similar concept. I really liked it on the Sun Dragon at the time, obviously.
Oh, apologies. We seem to have lost him. Let me just get Charlie back.
Hello.
Hey, you're back again.
There we are. Something went terribly wrong. I was talking about the Sun Dragon.
Yes.
And similar play style. Obviously, the big upside is it's much stronger than a Griffin. The big downside is as impetuous and it costs a bit more. But it is 7 weapon skills, so it has the full D6 Thunderstomp. It's pretty good. But for overall, for the noble, in isolation, he's a B. He's not that great. But there are very unique ways that High Elf players can use the noble to give leadership when you have a Handmaiden general, to be a monstrous creature or a behemoth BSB with a war banner. These are really unique things. So for me, he sits at A because he can do some really special things in the army.
Perfect. No disagreements there. Nice and easy. Well, we've got another banger. Do you want to take the Archmage?
Oh yes, the Archmage is very good. Archmage is very good for one reason: Liliath's Blessing, or Lilith's Blessing, depending on how you read it. I'm a Liliath man. For that one reason. And a free reroll for a failed spell cast every turn is reasonably good in the context of the old world. But for High Elves, it's insanely good because High Elf magic often relies on that one spell that usually goes first. So we're talking about TMPs, Walk Between Worlds, and Arcane Urgency. And these 3 are all on a 10. So they are failable. If you do make the reroll and you do succeed, you're usually getting a high dice score, so you're usually getting that spell off. And because of the importance of these spells, the way that High Elves play, generally you're out of dispel range, right? So that turn 1 Arcane Urgency, or when you have a massive chain of sister skirmishers and you want to TMP or Walk Between Worlds and you've left your mage at the end of 30 models out of dispel range, you're out. Your only opponent is yourself rolling low. And Liliath's Blessing is so potent for all 3 of those spells, and all 3 of those spells underpin entire play styles for the army. And I think the best ways to play the army competitively, you're casting one of those 3 spells every turn. So the Archmage with Liliath's Blessing is extremely good. He's not too expensive given he gets this baked in. At 155. Other level 4s are sitting at 130 to 160 sort of range. That's a bargain. I'll take that every day. The lores you have access to, really good lores. You're missing out on Demonology and Dark, and I don't think no one's crying about missing out on those 2.
I think I'd really like Demonology. Because
Demonology is fun.
If you could buff Sisters, if you could give Sisters Steed of Shadows so they can just fly 12 inches and then shoot at Strength 4 AP2. It's
pretty hot.
Yeah.
Vessel on the Sisters would be outrageous. Oh man, if they'd only given Demonology to Stormweavers.
Buddy, I'd never run a dragon again.
That would be ridiculous. And then when you get charged, you'd beat the crap out of anyone anyway. But yeah, the
Rising
Archmage
up,
is great.
back on the street did my time,
Overall,
took my
easy
chances,
S
went the
because
distance. Now
if
I'm
you want to
back on
win
my
games with
feet,
High Elves,
just
you
to
have at
manage as well
least
to
one in your
survive.
army every single time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think they're S tier. I think they're above a prince. I think they're unbelievably good. Possibly the best caster in the game, sort of point for point. Trying to think if there's
Yeah,
anything that
good,
I
yeah.
like more than.
In terms of their native abilities,
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
very cheap. They're very good. They've got good laws. Maybe you argue that like the Master Necromancer that comes with the Mortis engine is better, but we're quibbling. They're all up there at a very, very solid start point.
he can be quite cool as well with Warden of Safri. So for some reason they gave Archmages 5 initiative, 2 attacks, and he's got Elven reflexes. So he also has 2 strength 5 AP2 killing blow initiative 6 attacks if charged.
So this came up
10
at
points.
a tournament, and I didn't know the answer to it, and I haven't really bothered to look into it. But I think if you cast Hammerhand with the wizard and you had Warden of Safri, your Hammerhand would have Killing Blow, because you get the Killing Blow rule. It's not your
Yeah.
weapon that has it. So if you want to just add more... I mean, you could even go Elementalism and get the really good spell, which is Sword of Flame or Blade of Flame, whatever it's called.
Flaming Sword of Ruin.
Yeah, oh, wow. Yeah, the one that nobody ever takes because
Yeah,
it's terrible.
doesn't exist, right?
Unless you want to fish for 6s.
Yeah, D6
one of the
hits or
options.
D6 plus 1, I think. One or the other, but I never thought of that actually.
Well,
Yeah,
Nemo
model
says
gets
it doesn't
low.
work on Hammerhand because spells don't inherit rules. So that's probably true, and I should
It
look
would
into
work
that.
with Doppelganger.
Yes, yeah,
That's
yeah.
for sure.
I'm a big fan of a doppelganger, not competitively, but for fun. Sometimes I'll put it into a list just to enjoy myself.
We've all built an illusion mage with the white sword of Hearth
yes,
at some point
on
and
a
not
sky
played
cutter.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
never
yeah.
made it to the table.
Looked at it like that. So Archmage, fantastic. And then we come to the Mage. And unlike Dark Elves, who have a real reason to... thank you, Steve.
So many times,
Steve is
it
spamming
happens
me
too
with lyrics
fast.
from
You trade your passion for glory.
from the Eye of
Don't
the
lose your
Tiger.
grip on the dreams of the
So
past.
every time you're
You must
talking, I'm
fight
trying
us
to
to
keep a
keep them
straight
alive.
face because I know you can't hear the lyrics, and I'm trying to not laugh while you're talking.
I can't see the comments at all, so all
No.
I get is your play-by-play.
Yeah, it's just... Well, thank you again, Steve. Very generous. Rising up back on the streets. Where was I? Mage. Unlike Dark Elves, I don't think there's a reason to take them. Dark Elves, you can... Dark Elves and Wood Elves. Wood Elves, taking a level 2 with Battle Magic and the Lore Familiar, so you can get a pillar out of it and you get Arcane Urgency. Plays really well with the unit of... whatever their core horse riders are. Then the
Dark Riders.
Yeah, no, sorry, I was talking about Wood Elves. And then
Oh.
for Dark Elves, they also want to, take a Lore Familiar, take 2 Focus Familiars, drop a Pillar of Fire 24 inches turn 1. Both of them have a really strong, solid reason to take a level 2. That reason does tend to be Pillar of Flame. I don't think you really care about doing that in High Elves. I think for me, just straight down to C tier for mages. I think they're playable, but I just don't see myself taking them in lists realistically.
Yeah, they still have Lilia's Blessing.
True.
Which means you could still you. So I've seen them played. I think Sam Freestone plays them with a Lore Familiar Battle Magic, and he just picks up Arcane Urgency. You could do the same thing with High Magic or Elementalism for TMP or Witching Worlds. Sit him out of dispel range at the back of the Sisters unit, and just rely on your Lilia's Blessing to get the spell off. You need 8 on the dice. That's kind of where you could do it, but I would agree with you. I think the mage doesn't belong. I certainly don't see them working. So yeah, I would. What are the characterizations of tiers for us? What is a B? What is a C? What is an A?
So for me, S tier is tournament staple. A tier is very good, but you don't necessarily want to put it into every list. B tier is fine, and it's C tier, I think, is where you're starting to... You're struggling to find reasons to put them in. F tier is you're actively harming yourself for taking this unit.
Okay, struggling to put it into list mage. C.
Yeah. Yeah. So you think C tier? Happy with that one?
I think C. Well, yeah, I'll go for C. You can also put them in a small unit of sisters with a ruby ring,
That's true.
play out of the spell range, and do some fun stuff like that. But High Elves love their character budget, and you really want to spend all of it.
Yeah. Maybe bottom of B then. I think they're straddling sort of like bottom of B, top of C. So we'll start there and we can move
Bottom
it
of
down.
B feels good, yeah.
Yeah.
They still have Lilia's Blessing. That's still a good thing.
So they're actually potentially going to get off the spell that matters, where level 2 often don't.
Yeah.
All right. Walk me through your thoughts on a Dragon Mage.
I love Dragon Mages.
Really?
I'm not saying they're good.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
Absolutely love them. When Forces of Fantasy first dropped, when the game came out, I was ecstatic to see Dragon Mages. I swiftly purchased 3 Dragon Mage models in the cabinet behind me, or
Nice.
2 and another one in progress. They're really cool. I don't think they have too much play competitively. I will say, I'm sure there is a good competitive list with a Dragon Mage in it, and someone needs to play it and prove it. If you compare putting a level 2 mage on a Sun Dragon with Blood of Calidor and building it out yourself, the Dragon Mage is only slightly better, and it's mostly better for the ward save to flaming. And I think it gets Ithilmar weapons and an extra attack. So it's only very slightly better. I believe it also loses some things as well. It's not only positive. Like the level 2 mage, building it yourself is better in some ways as well. So yeah, they're not, conceptually not great. You got a level 2 with Impetuous. Or you lose lore access. That's it. With Dragon Mage compared to a level 2, you have much more restricted choice in lores.
Worse weapon skill as well, as Nemo points out, because Blood of Calidor puts your regular mage to weapon skill 5.
Yes, indeed. It's a bit wobbly.
Yeah,
but I love them. They're so cool conceptually. I just feel like they needed a little bit more to do the thing that they're. It's a combat mage, and all they did was give it an attack and an initiative. I feel like it needed something a little bit more, like, I don't know, +1 to cast assailments. Now it's still bad. It's still bad with that. It doesn't need a points increase, but it feels a bit more like it's doing the thing it was meant to do.
Okay, yeah, I get what you're saying. So really it comes down to, is it C tier or F tier?
Oh, I'm gonna keep it C because it still has a thunderstomp, right?
Sure. I think for me, I don't think it's actively bad, but I think if you take it, you're not taking good character points. So that's the only argument I could make for putting it down here. But I think you're right. There could be a good build that takes a Dragon Mage. I think it's worse than the ones that don't. But High Elf characters are so cracked that maybe you just go, I'm going to take 700 points of really good characters and also a Dragon Mage, and that's just fine.
Still gets you the fully tooled up prince and a geared out archmage, so that's still all right. You're making a little bit of sacrifice. You're taking 50 points on your archmage, and your Dragon Mage is naked.
Sure.
A bit rough.
Yeah. At which point, that might be just a lot of points that I don't know that I want to drop on a quite killable dragon. But, you're still playing 2 dragons, so
yeah,
it's the worst case scenario.
If you
it's still
take
playable.
it as rare, it would suddenly be S tier, incredibly amazing. Like Warp Fires. Hey, let's put a dragon in rare.
That also has the capability of casting spells.
Yeah, so Warp Fire
can
be level
save.
2. Yeah, so that's what we really need here. We need the Dragon Mage to be rare choice, and suddenly it does the thing it's meant to do, and it is takeable, and it is very good. But you're right; it's the sacrifice you're making on your princes and archmages and handmaidens that is the real downside. So by our definition, it does actively harm you. Therefore, it must be an F. But I don't think
there are
lists.
harms you. I think it's just because it's not a good character. So I think for C tier that probably
it's
feels
still.
okay.
I think it remains in C tier on the fact that there are good lists. You could build good lists with this in it.
Perfect.
You could do that. Yeah.
All right. So that means it's my turn to talk about the Handmaiden. I don't think the Handmaiden's very good at all. I'm just going to stick it in F and we can move on.
I'm going to walk out. Can't walk out of the digital stream, but I'm going to walk out.
The people can't see your legs and therefore they don't exist. Therefore, you can't walk out. Checkmate, Charlie. You're stuck in here with me. You've got to put up with my bullshit. No, the Handmaiden, obviously very good. What is the main... You know what? It is my turn to talk about it. I think you should just wax lyrical, because this is your list, basically.
No. I'd be more interested in your view, because
all right. So,
I've already mentioned Sisters about 9 times. Everyone already knows my view on a Handmaiden.
Handmaidens are... okay, in terms of stats, they are, fine. They're a hero level character. Why did you take them? 2 reasons. 1, the Horn of Isha, which is do a leadership test, and then if you pass the leadership test, your unit of sisters gets +1 to hit and wound. It is just sisters, isn't it? You can't put it into...
You can put it in anything.
Oh, okay. So maybe if infantry become great again at some point in the next 10 years, we see those in Lothan's Sea Guard. That would be a good place to put them. But so sisters, giving them +1 to hit and wound is obviously huge, as you've pointed out to me a couple of times. It's not just for when you shoot, it's also for, until your next start of turn. Get it on the stand and shoot, that's obviously great. What else do you get? Well, if you take them and they are your general, you can take a unit of sisters as your core, which means that you don't have to take Silver Helms, Illyrian Reavers, archers and spearmen, things that are not necessarily the greatest. So you can have a much more efficient core. But what you sacrifice is taking a prince, because you have to take a leadership 8 model as your general. For me, I understand that they are good and they unlock a lot of stuff, but I think because of the limitations they have, I would put them towards the top of A. I think they fall shy of S tier for me, and this really comes down to the differences we have in our preferred playstyle for High Elves. So if I say top of A tier, give me your rebuttal.
Well, I tend to agree with you, I think. Obviously, they're beyond S in the way I play High Elves, but they, outside of that, they are probably bottom of A if you're not using them as your general. They're pretty terrible for their points. They have 2 attacks. Strength 4. They come with an AP1 spear.
Good ballistic skill.
7 ballistic skill. They do the thing that they're designed to do, which is hold an expensive bow, put sisters in core, and blow the horn. These are the things that they do. So very often, if you're running a core sisters list, and you've got 500 points of core sisters, which tends to put the fear of God into people, the Handmaiden often has nothing on. No talisman of protection, no seafarers, bow of the seafarer. Just her and the horn, and her job is to blow that horn on the right turn. Why no seafarer? Because you're often thirsty for points in characters. But if she does take it, it's great, of course. Portable bolt thrower is fun.
Worst case scenario, you put it on your unit champion who's only ballistic skill 6.
Yes.
Disgusting.
God awful.
Yeah.
Usually, I mean, because it gives you more points in character budget, I tend to think you do put the Seafarer on the unit champion.
Yeah.
And the other item you need in the unit tends to be the Lore Master's Cloak for the 4+ ward to magic missiles, and that can go on the Handmaiden. But yeah, the Handmaiden. So it's all about. The Handmaiden is awful, atrocious, F tier. Put an Horn of Isha on it, now it's A tier. Make it your general, now it's an S tier model that has defined your entire army. And these are the ways to look at it. There are some cool things you could do where she's not your general, and you are trying to combine her with other units. Of course, you put in the sisters, it's great. One of the most beautiful things about High Elves is the flavor and the lore that's baked into the list, where characters from the wrong city states cannot join the other ones. You can't mix, you can't put characters into Phoenix Guard without the corresponding mark. These sorts of things is really cool. But the Handmaiden can generally go into most units. Into the Lothern Sea Guard, you lose the naval discipline rule, so you can't stand and shoot all the time, and you don't get the redress the ranks on a stand shoot. But it is very interesting. I wonder if you could pair it with the Shia Vest for the AP as well. Now you've got something really cool. I've done the maths on putting Handmaidens into a really wide unit of White Lions.
Okay.
And it's pretty nuts. Those boys are, AP 3, Strength 6, Weapon Skill 5. You give them +1 to hit, +1 to wound in 2 rounds of combat. It's pretty naughty. They're wounding dragons on 3s. It's kind of interesting.
What about Swordmasters, who admittedly wouldn't be wounding on 3s, but they would be hitting before most things?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I think she can't go in there. I believe only Hearth. I think
I'd
only
have to
Wardens of
double-check.
Safari or Lore Masters can go in Swordmasters.
Sure.
Which is to the point I made. I really like that about the way they wrote the book.
Especially because it doesn't affect the way that you want to build your list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not so bad. But she can go in, and if she's your general in the White Lions, they all get the ability to challenge. The whole unit now challenges. They have stubborn, which is great. But yeah, if you do a Death Star like that, give it various banners, give it 4 toughness, whatever, run it 20 wide. If it's into a dragon, they're hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s, AP 3 for 2 rounds. It's pretty naughty. Or into anything, worst case scenario, 3s and 3s.
Sure.
So yeah, I for me, the Handmaiden is an S because she defines the army as I play it. If she's not the general, bottom of A, she's a useful piece. The Horn of Isha into a 250 point unit of Sisters of Avalon is powerful. When you shoot, stand and shoot, and then strike first in a round of combat, that's pretty awesome. If she's not got the Horn of Isha, she is F, probably the worst model in the book.
Those are strong words. So I think a reasonable middle ground is top of A there, as a sort of holistic look as how it goes. And taking us onto something that maybe isn't the top of A, the Sea Garrison Commander. And unfortunately for you, this is your turn. Have you got any thoughts at all about the Garrison Commander?
I mean, technically he's all right. If you look at him,
that is exactly how I describe him.
If you look at him in isolation, he's technically all right.
Yep.
He is better than Noble. He has various things that make him interesting.
I don't know that he is better than a Noble.
Well, if they had a fight, he would win, right? I
don't know that he would, because he can't take any good weapons outside of magic weapons, and he can't take
Blade of Seagold is good. If you could take that on normal characters, you might get a bit of play. I think it's not too bad.
But he's like that middle point. He's the hero and a half character. But he's capped at heavy armor, and his non-magical weapons are capped at a cavalry spear. So when I first saw him, I was like, 75 points to put on, basically a souped up noble on a griffin. Incredible. And then I was like, oh, wait, hold on. No, he's not. He's just worse, because I'd have to take magic armor to get him to the same point.
Yeah, it's kind of rough. I think if you're... I would say he's F in that you're just wasting character budget.
Sure.
However, of course, if you're running a Lothern list and you're doing a Lothern Death Star, and what is the rule? He buffs the unit somehow. I can't remember it.
They get evasive and fire and fleet, which I think are 2 rules that I don't want on an infantry unit. Not a ranked up infantry unit anyway. Maybe evasive. You can just sit
evasive is nuts, man. Free reform. Thank you very much.
Yes. If we're assuming that my opponent is competent and they're not going to shoot you when that matters, I don't know that I care about it all that much.
That also makes that unit immune to shooting. If he's not shooting you, avoid proccing evasive. He's not shooting you. There's no ruby rings coming in. There's no fireballs coming in.
Immune to shooting is one way to put it. It means that I think I would describe it as it makes your opponent think twice about whether they want to shoot it, and then they go, actually, no, I'll kill one of the good units instead. That's probably...
But I think hey, I'm running a Lothern list and I'm doing a Lothern Death Star and I've got a commander in it, and I've got Ishaya Vess in it, and I've got the fight in an extra rank banner and all these things.
Yeah.
He is objectively in that situation S tier. He must be taken. He is incredible. However, if
Yeah.
you are playing the army that way, you're not playing to win tournaments. You're playing to have fun because you like Lothern.
Yeah. I think I don't even know if he would be an auto take, honestly, in that list. I think I'd maybe just go like skimp and go for more support characters. So you just go, maybe a couple of Stormweavers, or maybe even just go in for a couple of Dragon Mages and be like, screw it, it's the only dragon I can get. Let's do something about this.
True. He is taking up Dragon Mage money.
Yeah. I think I'd be more interested in taking him if I could take him outside of the Lothan detachment, mostly because I'm not playing the Lothan detachment. But I just feel like there's maybe some scope for a character that rides a monstrous creature, Griffin, with 75 points of magic items. Maybe there's something there that I want to look into.
Yeah, that'd be great. Or if he gave evasive to any unit he joined.
Yes,
that would be pretty interesting.
I find evasive... evasive's fine. It's a big ranked up unit, so you're probably not getting it out of range. If you had longer range bows, I'd be more excited about it, but you've got 24-inch war bows, so realistically, unless you're playing against dwarves with loads of Iron Drakes, it doesn't really matter all that much. And you're probably going to be too wide to actively hide behind a wood and then fall back and be, immune to being shot. You can play around with it. There's definitely something.
It's less about getting out of range and more about a free reform. For me, that's the power of the ability.
Yeah, I think that's super fair. So I think I'm happy to put him down at the bottom of C.
Okay, well he is a sea guard, so put him
there
to the
we
bottom
go.
of the sea.
Very good, very good. And we're going to move on to Ishaya Vess, who I actually quite like. And I think the problem with Ishaya Vess is that the way that she wants to play is not a way that is particularly strong at the moment. But I have mentioned, obviously there was a post on Reddit a while ago. There have been rumors of some sort of balance where, behemoths get worse, infantry get better. In that world, I think she's really an interesting choice. You can take her in Grand Army, so you can play good High Elves with also a way to buff your Lothan Sea Guard, which I think is very interesting. She gives them +1 to their AP, just all of the time. So their warbows and their spears all shoot at an extra AP. This is really solid. Other than that, she's kind of whatever. She's quite expensive at 170. She does have some, various rules in there that are good. Having Rallying Cry is nice, but she's going to be in the unit, so if they're running away, she can't use that rule anyway. I think, without going too into detail on her, because she's sort of a niche character, I think she's a solid B choice. You can play in this way. It's not sort of the way that you necessarily want to play, but I don't think you're actively harming yourself if you're going for this, because the stuff that she buffs is core, and the core choices are so kind of bland in High Elves outside of your very favourite.
Yeah, and I'd go with B. She is reasonably expensive for the stat line and the equipment. She's an all right fighter. She has 9 leadership. She gets an extended command range. These are all nice things.
Sure.
But they're not things that you pick her up for. You pick her up because she gives AP to Lothern. And in a world where infantry get better, in a world which we do live in, where objectives are becoming more and more common in tournament packs, Lothern are pretty hot objective piece. When objectives require you to be core pick and you need a unit strength of X, which you see quite often, so it can sit there and still contribute to the game by shooting, have a 5-up armor save so that they don't just randomly die to fireballs. And if they're charged by the enemy scouts or chaff or whatever, they'll usually mess them up with the stand and shoot and then 6 initiative in the round 1 of combat with spears. They'll body any scout cavalry that's trying to clear them off objectives. So in that world, she does become better, and giving the whole unit AP1 is obviously great because they have bows and spears. But yeah, I'd leave her in B for now, and I think in a world where B must get worse and if we get better, she's probably still a B, because you're probably not doubling down into Lothern Sea Guard in huge numbers.
I've been thinking about it a lot. I want to run
Yeah.
big bricks of Swordmasters and fill my core with Seaguard. Not yeah, and that'd just be great. That'd be
Yeah.
a good time. You are right. The Sisters list is probably still just the objectively better infantry list to play.
Yeah, but no, Lothern are really good. I think they're
Well,
underused.
Lothan are very fine. I think is a
Very
more
fine, yeah.
fair way to like. I don't look at them and I'm not viscerally sick.
Yeah.
They're okay.
They're not atrocious. I mean, at the start of the edition, I played them a lot, and I had quite a lot of success.
Yeah.
But it was early in edition, so it's maybe not the best barometer.
Yeah, every time I look at them, I want to play them. They just on paper feel like they should be better than they are. So I have high hopes for them at some point in the future. Let's move on to the Chracian Chieftain.
Well, I think that contrary to the Lothern list, the Chracian Warhost is actually competitively viable. I think there are good lists there. The Chieftain is probably in none of those unless he's an item caddy for you if you want the sacred incense or what have you, or you want a banner in there. Furious Charge is his main selling point, and I think I don't care so much about that. Unless you're doing like a Lion Guard Death Star, then cool, put him in. But I'd rather just have more Lion Guard models for the points. No, I think the Chracian Chieftain, unless I've not really examined him.
Yeah,
I will be honest, but I do think he's not great.
I would say I think he is solid in the Chracian Warhost list. So he comes stock with an extra wound. I'm getting a bit of feedback from you. I don't know if it's if you've got me on speakers or something like that. Might be worth shifting the head. That sounds good. Lovely. So he's got an extra wound on top of a noble, so he's a little bit beefier as like a BSB, which is nice. He is a little bit hittier. He is more expensive, but he comes rolled in with some good rules. Furious Charge is fine. He can go on a chariot. I think he's a really solid place to put the T4 banner.
Yeah,
And I haven't quite worked out if that's actually good, and I think this might be moving into the future. If infantry become great again, that might be the world where we go. Hold on, a Chracian Chieftain with a war banner with the toughness banner
resilience.
Yeah, banner resilience is really interesting because you can then also, if you want to, give him regen and +1 wound and +1 toughness, take him up to a very beefy 4 wounds at T5 with a 5-up regen, and then he's never falling over until gets hit by something that actually matters. I think for me, more impressive than the Sea Garrison commander.
I'd agree, yeah.
If I'm in the Chracian Warhost list and I want to take an infantry character or even a chariot character, I would probably put them above the noble and probably above the prince on a chariot, unless I want to do something with 100 points. So I would say probably solid middle of B.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Fantastic. All right. Speaking of someone who is beefy, can go on chariots, and might be solidly middle of B, we've got Corhill. Any thoughts on
Don't do Corhill dirty with that kind of prelude. I think Corhill's good, man.
Yeah?
I think Corhill's good. He is very fighty. He has a lot of output. He has very high strength, high AP, weapon skill, gets good attacks.
Yep.
Put him on that chariot. Good armor save. Depending on your interpretation of the rules, you can have a 2-up armor to shooting. That's a rules lawyer part. Immune to poison, that's fun. Good weapon, regen. And for all that, he's not that expensive. I think he is basically in isolation. He is a powerful model for good value point cost. But as always with the High Elves, you're looking at your princes and your archmages and so on and thinking, what am I losing in return? But I think in isolation, of course he's not an A. I'm going to say low A, and then I'm going to accept it when you bring me down to a high B. But I'm going to put that forward at least.
I respect what you say. I agree with all of your points. And here is the problem. He is a melee infantry character in a world where I don't want to see melee infantry for High Elves. He
has to be on the chariot. He has to be. He doesn't exist on foot.
Sure. At which point you're paying 280-ish points, right?
Yeah.
Which that's a big chunk out of your not, your Dragon Lord and Wizard
Yeah.
budget. I think he's a really solid, fighty character, but he just can't ride a dragon. So I think we'll start him right. We'll start him at the bottom of A. I think he's definitely going to get moved down, but we'll leave him there until A starts.
Let's give him a little moment in the sun.
Yeah,
because for in isolation for that 280 points, that is a good deal, and he will smash most things to pieces, most non-character stuff to pieces.
Yes.
That's good, and he cannot be in a world of 80 model poison shooting units, they can't really hurt him.
Yeah.
He's got it's either a 2 or a 3 up armor save to shooting. He's immune to poison. He's got a 5 regen.
He's not a large target, which is
He's not a large target. He's a very interesting utility piece into shooting armies, and if he gets in, he smashes them to bits. But yeah, it's just about, I've lost an Archmage.
Yeah, or a dragon.
Yeah.
There's no way you could take him in the Handmaiden list. I was like, for a moment, I was like, oh wait, hold on. If I can take this as my backup character, but no.
That would be nuts. But no, he's got 9 leadership.
Yeah, something to very briefly touch on that we didn't. In melee, I love it. He's so reliable. Got a good weapon skill, 7, and has reroll 1s to hit. Where do you see that? Very rarely. It's just a great rule to have, and it's all of the time. It's not just first round of combat or anything like that. But yeah. So I think currently above his station, but he is a bit of a stunty model, so we've hiked him up in the rankings just for a moment.
There it is.
Finally, we've got the Stormweaver, and I'll be honest, I don't have a firm opinion on this one. There is a lot of interest and excitement around it, and they have not made it into any of my lists.
Yeah,
they're an interesting one.
They were the hottest thing out of the book. Everyone was so stoked on the Stormweaver.
Yeah.
Dark magic. Hey, dark magic is probably the funnest lore, but I also think it's one of the worst. But it's really fun if you get the cool spells. Infernal Gateway just breaks the game in ways people are not expecting. Obviously, Battle Lust is so fun to get that off. Word of Pain is really powerful.
It's a lore familiar lore.
Doombolt's not bad at all. 24-inch range makes it good. So dark magic we like to see that. I don't think we're ever really going to use it that much, but we do like to see that.
Yeah.
9 leadership is both amazing on a mage. Most mages don't have it, but it's also a curse.
Yeah.
No Handmaiden generals. But 9 is a very interesting way to get access to 9 leadership, putting it on your mage.
Sure.
Level 3 with level 3 is not the worst thing in the world. Like it's not game over. They lose Liliath's Blessing, and that's where it really comes crumbling down.
Yeah.
And they get nothing in return. They get 9 leadership in return. Yeah, they're a struggle for me. That they are good. Again, in isolation, they are good. They're 5 points more than a mage, and they get a leadership. Would you pay 5 points to give your mage 9 leadership? Absolutely, you would. That would be wonderful. I would love that. But it's a struggle to get them in list. They go into so many lists when you're sitting there writing your lists, and you put the Stormweaver in because you're excited to use this fun new model, and it has 9 leadership, and that's all great. But then eventually you just remove it because you have to put something else in.
Yeah, and they also pay extra points for the privilege of not being able to take an Elven Honor, which takes a lot of the fun stuff out of there. You can't even give them a good sword, which is a shame because the model that they announced them with comes with a big sword in the hand, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. So that doesn't even make sense. Only got a weapon. So I think for me, I struggle to see them in lists. Does that mean that they go into C tier? I think that's an opinion that a lot of people disagree with, but I kind of feel like they do.
The one sort of interesting thing that they do have is the unicorn, which is it's quite expensive. Doesn't do anything really, but it does give it movement 10.
Sure.
And a level 3 mage running around with movement 10 That's something. There is play there. You can make that good.
You could for other armies, but if I could pay 5 points less, and then plus 30 points to get a level 4, and put it on a normal elven steed, which is only movement 9, but it can join light cavalry in skirmish. I think High Elves already have good, fast wizards that I don't know that a solo wizard is particularly appealing in any way.
Yeah. Again, it's the same old story with good in isolation, comparatively terrible.
Yeah, I think that's probably it. Cool. So we can dump them in sea, and if we feel strongly about it later on, we can pull them up.
He ain't getting out of sea.
Okay. Just gonna live there. All right.
That's his home.
We're about 50 minutes into talking about these, and we've only done the characters, so we're gonna hit the infantry next. The good stuff we can still talk about, but the stuff that's bad we'll not breeze past, but we won't spend too long on. So the first thing that we've got are ship's company. Ship's company are a weird spot between archers and spearmen, which can take... Is there anything in there that's different other than you can give them... They come with evasive and fire and flee. I think that's the...
They can skirmish as well, I think.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. I actually don't hate skirmishing archers, and you can take them in units of 5. That's fine.
They are good. If you're running a Northern list, these are good. And if if you weren't running a Northern list, these would still be fine.
Yeah,
they are fine. There are way better ways to spend your points.
I think the problem with it is as well, if I'm going Loth and Seaguard, I probably want to fill my full core with Loth and Seaguard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But skirmishing, evasive, fire and flee core archers, that's not awful. I'd be tempted to say I'm never taking them, but they probably go at the bottom of B.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool.
Because they are good. Again, in isolation, good. Comparatively, not great.
It's just where you can fit them in.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll go through the boring stuff first. So we'll go. Then we've got spearmen. Spearmen to F tier.
Yes, without hesitation, unpickable trash. Only thing they can do is beat vampire count infantry blocks. That's it. That is their only thing they can do.
Can they even do that over a long time frame? Because you res your models and I don't.
Yeah, because they got good static and they kill so many.
Yeah,
I think they will slowly beat a unit of zombies.
Oh,
that's
a unit
the
of
best
zombies.
Thing I can say.
I see.
Yeah.
How many points is a zombie?
3.
Right. Spearmen are 9. So
yeah, they will slowly beat a unit of zombies over 6 turns.
Yeah. Perfidy says spearmen deserve S tier based on the size of the hands alone. I don't think having monstrously large hands gets you into S tier. It might get you into
awful models as well.
Seek medical assistance tier.
They're so horribly ugly. I've got old edition monopose spearmen over there that look beautiful, and the modern ones.
I do like those ones actually. Yeah,
abysmal.
The very 2D flat pack probably came in one of the starter boxes, something like that.
Yeah, no, they're very handsome, but we can move on. Spearmen suck.
Perfect. And then we've got archers, which I think are comparable to ship's company. I think they're above them in the tier list. They are worse than the skirmishing archers in ship's company, but you can actually take them because you can take them in Grand Army. I don't think they have any rules that are particularly exciting, but you can take them in units of 5. You can put them in a conga line. They can all volley fire, or you can just march them 15 inches and use them like slightly more expensive, slightly worse Chaos Warhounds, which I think is valuable in and of itself.
No, they're not too bad. Ballistic Skill 4, longbows, this is nice. You can just, as you say, use them as unit of 5s to farm drops. If you want to outdrop your opponent, just drop 5 units of 5 elven archers to get information. Yeah.
That would be, I guess, as long as you're not playing Rule of 3. I guess if you're playing Rule of 3, you go 3 units of archers and 3 units of spearmen. You're like, oh no, 2 of my terrible units don't shoot the bows that they probably weren't going to shoot all game.
Yeah.
Cool. Then we've got Loth and Seaguard, and we've kind of talked about these already, and I can tell that we both really like this unit.
I'm a fan.
And I think that means that we need to be more critical. So I'd be tempted to put them near the top of B, but I think maybe just in front of archers is more realistic, because
I mean, if I'm putting my non-Lothern Seaguard fanboy hat on, I'm putting them below archers because the only way that I'm playing either of these units is in an objectives-based
Sure.
event pack where I want 30-inch shooting so I can sit at the back of the objective and still contribute to the game. Lord and Seaguard have to get into the danger zone, have to be in fireball range, ruby ring range. Yeah, I would put them below because of that range loss.
Yeah.
But me as a high elf player, I really, on paper, they're good again.
Yeah.
In isolation.
I think their day's going to come.
Yeah.
Before the end of the year, I'm going to take them to a tournament and do okay with them. And then you'll all be sorry. You all laughed.
I'd love it, man. I'd love it. They also, fun fact, they unlock the ability to take Merworms in Grand Army, and that is not nothing.
No,
that is also a thing. And they were amazing
that maybe drops
bullies
them
early
down
in the
a tier.
edition. Yeah, I guess so. But they early in the edition, when people didn't understand redress the ranks, and they would declare a charge, and you'd use naval discipline to suddenly teleport your flank 3 inches further away from them. Now they fail their charge. Lord and Seaguard were beating up games back then.
Yes.
And now that people understand how that works, they've lost their sort of gotcha ability.
They're not going to stand weirdly off at an angle to your corner so that when they declare the charge and have to move the shortest distance possible while maximizing, you're like, ha ha ha! This means you're very slightly further away, and I still shoot you. Sucks to be you.
Yeah.
But yes, that is their only aspect that exists. Cool. Chracian Woodsmen, though. These are skirmishing archers that you can kit out pretty well. You can get them to a 4-up save against non-magical shooting. They can have the Chracian great axes. They can have war bows. They're okay. I think they're one of the better parts of the Chracian detachment, realistically.
Yeah. No, they're hot sauce. Another, when the Arcane Journal came out, these guys were straight to the top of everyone's excitement chart as well.
Yeah.
Strength 4 shooting, good. Good armor save to enemy shooting, which as a skirmishing move 5 ranged unit, the thing that brings you down is going to be enemy shooting. So having that good save there, with the Lion Cloaks, they're really good. They're just straight up good unit. They have good equipment, good rules. If you could take them in Grand Army, really interesting.
Sure.
They're just good. I mean, could they be A? Yeah, again, in isolation, that's an A tier unit. There's other armies in the game of the old world who would kill to have access to this core pick. It comes in a list that needs 33% core allocation, and that really harms its ability to play games.
Yeah.
But again, in isolation, these are fantastic, fantastic models, especially with all the upgrades.
So I think they probably sit around B, but if the tournament you're going to is more objective focused, which is not a direct buff to them, but you're more likely to want to take, the Chracian Guard, so you can take a big Death Star of the core Lion Guard, give them the Banner of Resilience. At that point, I think they go up a tier because they're really good around that list. But I think
these guys are so good on paper. They could easily be A tier in the right comp.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And if Infantry become great again, they'll be one of the infantry units that gets played. Perfect. Then we're on to White Lions, and this one I struggle with. So there's a bit of a meme on my Discord where I get ragged on for not being able to win games with White Lions. Not that I ever really play them, because months ago, the last time I did an infantry tier list, someone told me that I didn't have a clue what I was talking about, and Lion Guard were obviously like an A-tier unit or something like that. So, in fear of retribution, obviously I've got to say that we just put them here and move on. That's the only sort of reasonable response to that kind of accusation. What do you think?
I reject your hypothesis.
Good. I'll send them after you instead.
Yeah. There is one way to correctly play, in my opinion, White Lions that is good.
Yeah.
And that is a unit of 7.
Okay.
Unit champion. You're running a high mage.
Okay.
You've rolled Fury of Cain. Your opponent is a Warriors of Chaos or Dwarves player.
Sure.
Your white lions go in, hit on 3s, wound on 2s, AP3 against dragon ogres. That's pretty interesting. There's 15 attacks. That's
Okay.
pretty interesting. But all the main way I see them being used in all these scenarios is you've got your Sisters of Avalorn. Your entire game plan is based on a 1,500 point unit of Sisters and Mages, and the White Lions are running around behind the Sisters, tracking the enemy dragon's movements.
Mm-hmm.
And when the enemy dragon finally gets into the Sisters and they pop stubborn and fall back in good order they go through the White Lions, the dragon is forced to connect with the White Lions, who can then challenge, not double outnumbered, fall back in good order, or pop their own stubborn. They're an amazing backstop for if your Sisters get caught. And if your local meta is full of dwarves and dragon ogre players, they also just happen to be really good at smashing those two specific units.
Sure.
C.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree with C. I think so. The only argument I have for them being not the worst of the 3 elite infantry that you can bring, like melee elite infantry, is that you can take them in core. And that generally gives all of your units a boost. However, B is looking a bit B for bloated already, so I don't know that we need to fill it up with anything else.
Yeah, the core pick's a really important element, though. That is cool, and the you can turn them into an eternal challenge blob.
Sure.
But that's just for beating up players you would have probably beaten anyway because they've charged their dragon into your eternal challenge blob of white lions.
Yes.
They're probably someone you were going to beat anyway.
Without also charging in their BSB Noble on Griffin to
make
sure they win that combat. So I think they're probably the worst of the 3 infantry, but I don't think they're unplayable. And I think the reason I don't rate them higher is I don't think that the Woodsman detachment, the Chracian Warhost detachment, is necessarily worth playing competitively. I struggle to sort of get there. As you pointed out, the core tax makes it unappealing to me. But if you are playing that, I think they're one of the better units in there, as long as you're taking them in core.
Yeah, there's something to be said for strength 6, AP 3, stubborn. That is good.
Yeah. And if you ever get the charge off, you're still initiative 5. And in subsequent rounds, if you're fighting other great weapons... Well, no, it's only the first round of combat, so that actually never comes into effect, them being initiative 2.
No, but if they... Yeah, it helps if they're charging initiative 4 models. That's
that's the main thing. Or if they're somehow charged 1 inch by initiative 1 great weapons, which I guess does come up, you know.
Follow-ups from Dragon Ogres. These guys love Dragon Ogres. That's about their favorite place to play the game.
Dragon Ogres are really good. So if you want a tech to beat Dragon Ogres, that's not the worst thing in the world you can do. Don't do it, but it's not the worst thing in the world you could do. Perfect. Let's move on to Swordmasters, who I really want to put in A. This is my favorite unit. I'm going to put them here while I talk about them, and then I'm going to move them down. They don't deserve to be in A. They are solid. They're initiative 6? Initiative 7? I think it's 6 base.
6 plus 1,
so 7 when they're charged. That means you're striking at the same time as before basically every unit in the game that isn't an elf or a character. Even some characters you're hitting at the same time as. They have, very good... weapon skill 6, which is nuts on an infantry unit. They're only strength 3, becoming strength 5. They only have 1 attack, which means that they need a significant amount of support. And if you're putting support into them, you're not doing good things with your characters, and that's the main issue with them. But if dragons die a death, suddenly these shoot up in the rankings. I think they'll be very good if behemoths get nerfed into the ground. So
they're nuts.
I think realistically, they're a B tier unit that you can play. You've just got to put resources into them to make them worth playing at the moment, and they're still not amazing. But they're just, as infantry go, melee infantry, they're solid.
No, they're superb. They're really good into certain initiative 3 or below armies. These guys are mental, right? So you're getting charged by orcs.
Yeah,
you strike first. It's pretty interesting. Strength 5 is a high strength characteristic.
Mm-hmm.
AP2 is very high.
Mm-hmm.
Magical attacks is not nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Magic resistance 1 really, really love magic resistance in any way you can get it. It's always welcome.
Sure.
6+ ward against shooting, fine. Cleaving blow, it helps. It's a good thing. 14 points a model, quite a good deal for what you're getting, I would say.
Cheap for an elf.
Yeah, heavy armor is better than light armor.
Yeah.
The 6 weapon skill it's the weapon skill and initiative that you're paying for, and those things are fantastic. I think they're really good. I have about 80 of them over there.
Good man.
So these are my absolute favorite models. I've been playing High Elves for 24 years, and these guys have always been my absolute favorite thing.
Yeah.
I miss them having 2 attacks, of course. Bring that back. That would be nice. They're great. I think they're really good, but they suffer from the wider meta of investing in infantry that isn't a Death Star, and these guys cannot Death Star because they can just break and run. They don't have the staying power. They are great, and if infantry becomes good, these guys are going to be... High Elves will start winning events off the back of Swordmasters because they're just so... For the price that you pay, they're so dominant in an infantry to infantry matchup.
Yeah.
But they suffer from the meta. They just can't compete with... Yeah, the meta is the problem.
Is there a world you put a stubborn banner into this unit?
Yeah, that would be pretty interesting, right? Another, also very interesting with the unit is that you get 50-point magic item allowance on the champion, which lets you do some weird stuff. You can give them terror with the cloak of beards.
Sure.
There's all sorts of fun things you could do. You can double opal amulet him and make him a challenge bot. Yeah, they're really good, and I agree that we'll put them in A and then adjust them to B when no one's looking.
Yeah, I've already adjusted them to B. I just needed them there to start with, so I can go back and take a screenshot.
Like my mate Corhill.
Oh yeah, he should probably be moved down.
Yeah, it's time for him to go down. He's had long enough.
He's probably... I'm going to put him below Chracian Woodsman, I think.
I agree.
Because you have to take the Woodsman and you don't have to take Corhill.
Yes.
Perfect.
Deal.
All right. Honestly, looking at this looks surprisingly healthy in that there's not much at the bottom and the middle is pretty wide. There's a lot of choices that you're like, I actually could play this if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Not all armies have that flexibility, so we're doing pretty okay for High Elves. All right. Well, we're over halfway through. Here's a quick reminder: if you haven't liked the stream already, you should do so. Helps me get picked up by the algorithm. Buzzword, buzzword, buzzword. Back to the units. Phoenix Guard. I really like Phoenix Guard. I ran when I started playing, the very short version of getting into Old World, having not played Fantasy for 10 years or something like that. I started with High Elves, realised that I didn't want to play an army that's just a dragon. Ironic, given how I've been playing at tournaments for the last sort of 8 months. But
yeah.
When I started out, I wanted to have a more flexible game plan, and I was running a 500-point Death Star of Phoenix Guard. And it wasn't doing it for me, because they are still T3 models. Yes, they've got, a conditional ward save, and they've got full plate, but that kind of just doesn't do it. Now you can make them T4. They're still not good enough. But in this magical Christmas land, where we want to play infantry, I think they'll be worth looking at down the line.
Oh, yeah. No, I fully agree. They're again, objectively, really good.
Yeah.
Fighting 2 ranks with halberds is essentially they have 2 attacks, because you always want kind of deep magic attacks, high weapon skill, very high initiative, 9 leadership, fear. You're usually playing these guys in a big unit, so fear will come into it.
Fear and veteran is such a great combo for reliability in terms of never running away from the things that are going to ruin your day.
Yeah. Of course, veteran's fantastic. Word save, full plate. These are good. They can take 100-point magic banner, so they can get their 4 toughness themselves. They don't need a BSB.
Yeah.
The way I had success with them at a tournament, a local tournament that I won, playing a large unit of Phoenix Guard, a couple of mages in there, and I gave them the battle banner and war banner.
Nice.
To get +7 to 9 static combat res in the unit, and that just sent anything could charge it, and you would send it packing, because you just made sure you double outnumbered it. if it was a dragon, challenge it out, win combat, double outnumber it, anything can happen. Normal units charge them. They're initiative 6 with halberds fighting in 2 ranks. They can do a few wounds and then break the other unit because they double outnumber them and they have 8 static res or whatever. So yeah, they are really cool. I think you can use them in the current meta, because one of the ways to use infantry in the current meta is the big static res combat block. That if you get over 7, you get 7 or higher with a musician, you can just win combats against anything. So I think that they can play. They just cost a lot to achieve that thing.
Yeah, and the problem is all of those bricks that are good come from your core allocation, whereas there's no way to take Phoenix Guard as core. But
exactly.
I still think they're kind of like bottom of B tier playable.
Yeah. I'm down with that as well.
I think
they're
we're
useful.
maybe a little bit overly optimistic on the High Elf infantry. And I'm not going to
Well, the
adjust
problem
anything, but I think we both just like it too much.
Yeah, the problem is you got 2 High Elf fans to do a High Elf tier list. So unless it's spearmen, we're not really going to say anything bad about them, are we?
Oh, wait, hold on. Archers have big hands as well. Nailed it. So there may be some bias. I didn't say it at the start, but if you're looking at this and going, I think they've just kind of over-egged the pudding on those elite infantry units, which are the coolest High Elf units in the game. Yeah, maybe we have, but we're not going to do it. We're not going to change. We're not going to apologise. So suck on it. Assists of Avalon. I'm going to put them into S, and you're going to tell me succinctly, because we've kind of talked about them already. What is the Sisters of Avalon Death Star?
Oh man, this is some real heartbreaker stuff when you're drawn against it in a tournament, or you go into an opponent and he's just depressed to see 30 Sisters of Avalon being deployed on the table. So they're very good. I think when Forces of Fantasy first came out, I was reading through the book and I read these and it's like, dear Lord, these ladies have every special rule in the book. It's like 3 lines of rules underneath them in the book. So they are very good. We don't, as you said, we've already gone over why they're very good. There's basically 2 really strong ways to play High Elves, and one is dragon centric and the other one is sister centric. Sister centric being you take the Handmaiden, make her your general, take the Horn of Isha, put her and 2 Archmages into a unit of Sisters of Avalon, give them high magic with Walk Between Worlds, get them TMP with Elementalism, and just bully your opponent, uncatchable, moving around the table, insane damage output, Bow of the Seafarer. You give them all the toys that they need. You put 1,500 points of your army in this one unit, and you delete an enemy unit a turn, and when you feel ready for it, you put them in front of a dragon, you blow the horn, you stand and shoot it with the horn. You shoot it with the horn, then you stand and shoot it with the horn, then you strike first in combat with the unit, and it's just an absurd amount of damage output. And yeah, the models themselves are amazing. 5 weapon skill, rerolling 1s to hit in combat. Usually with the horn up, they're going to be hitting on 3s or 2s, rerolling 1s.
Yep.
Strike first, they're wounding on 5s at the worst with the horn up. Ballistic skill 5, AP 3 when they proc Armor Bane, immune to psychology, ignore cover, which is nuts.
Yep.
You're never getting those penalties. Immune to psychology, double-edged sword, you can't declare a flee, but usually with this unit, you would never want to declare a flee anyway, because then they're not exerting themselves on the board, and you're probably looking at a loss if you're declaring fleas as it is. Evasive, very cool, free reforms. And you're playing them with Walk Between Worlds, so generally you're going to move, shoot, reform, or reform, shoot, move. To keep flicking in and out of skirmish and open order depending on the threat that you're dealing with at the time. And the fact that you can take them as core is outrageous, and just has become an entire way to play High Elves.
Real good. As you pointed out, immune psychology, probably the only downside to them. I would much rather they didn't have this rule. It feels very weird that they can fall back in good order when they're shot, but they can't run away from a dragon. Not that you necessarily want to, but it's a weird bit of
it's an
cognitive
interesting one.
dissonance.
It's an interesting one. And then final thing on them, fantastically, 50 points on the champion. So you get 60 ballistic skill. You can give her you can give her the Bow of the Seafarer, or a combination of utility pieces. And the absolute game-changing part of all this, you can give them Stubborn.
Yeah.
So when they are caught, they pop full back in good order and go through your backstop unit. Usually you just want a small unit of infantry there. Or an eagle. An eagle does the job great. And they get out of jail free.
It's pretty okay. Ready to TMP next turn, which is exactly what you want to do. The only real downside to them is that they're expensive, 32.50 compared to a lot of infantry, and you only get 10 of them. Now, coming from the same kit, we've got Shadow Warriors. Most armies have some sort of good or not most. A lot of armies have some sort of good skirmish shooting, scouting unit. And High Elves have got Sisters of Avalon. Don't have Scout, but they kind of fit the bill on everything else. And then they also have Shadow Warriors. And you look at them and you go, there's so many rules here, they should be good. They're just not.
Yeah.
I don't understand. You look, it's like they just don't do anything. They just shoot with longbows and they don't kill anything. And they don't have any rules that make them particularly effective. I think down in C tier below Line Guard, personally.
Yeah. No, they're terrible. They are, again, they're very good, but why would you ever take them when you can take Sisters? They have Chariot Runners. Thank you. No, thank you. Useless. They can be your War Machine Hunter with Scout, and if they charge a War Machine, they're generally going to win.
Are they?
Well, they got 5 weapon skill.
Yeah, so they're hitting on
something.
3s, wounding on 4s or 5s. I think dwarf war machines they probably lose. Pretty much every
they might
time.
struggle. Yeah.
Yeah.
What they really need is to be shades and have great weapons. Now there's something there.
And better guns. And better models. Actually, no, that's not fair. The models are very nice.
Oh, they're beautiful models. But no, they're god awful.
Yeah.
I could even put them in F.
You know what?
It's just
let's do it. Because if you're taking them, you've spent money to buy models that could have been Sisters of Avalon.
Yeah,
and you've not.
It's
made
the same
them, so.
kit. You've actively chosen. Because they do look great, but the Sisters look great too.
Yeah. Lovely, lovely stuff. We're on to cavalry. So let's go with the skirmish cavalry first. And every time I look at Illyrian Reavers, I get sad. Because I come from playing Dark Elves. And Dark Elves, Dark Riders are just better than Illyrian Reavers. I think every aspect. And it's so frustrating. But they are still okay.
Yes.
They are still okay. You have to pay for skirmish on them, which drives me nuts. You have to pay 2 points if you want to have a short bow and keep hold of your pointy stick, which is, very aggressively costed. No, the opposite of aggressively costed. Very unfairly costed. What else have they got? They can't take a shield, so you're capped at a 6-up armor save.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. You can give them scouts. You can give Dark Rider scouts as well. You can give them a magic banner, but it's only a 25.1, so you probably don't ever want to put a standard bearer on light cavalry unless you're doing something weird with objectives. I think these are a B tier unit that I resent putting in B tier. How do you feel about them?
Yeah. Interestingly, by definition, they're also an S tier, and that pretty much every competitive high elf list has them in, or a lot of them do. They're a great place to put your mage. They have 9 move, that is good.
Sure.
They do get very expensive when you give them the mandatory upgrades of skirmish and shortbow.
Yeah.
But they're just missing a bunch of rules that they should have. It's very strange, and the particularly not being able to take shields is super rough. But the models don't have them, so that's why. That's why. So by our definition, they're an S tier unit because they're a tournament staple.
I think we can get
but
away
they're
with not
B
putting
tier
them there
unit, really.
because there's so many different ways of playing high elves that people go to tournaments with that don't take them.
True.
I definitely get what you're saying, and I will fight tooth and nail to make sure they don't go into S tier, because fuck this unit.
Oh
It's
no, they definitely don't go into S. They're very disappointing, but they are. I mean, ultimately they are good, and our core options are pretty limited. And
yeah.
these guys are one of the picks of core that you can take. They are good enough to take in core.
Yes, absolutely. And
If they were
something
special, they would never see the light of day ever, ever, ever. I
something
think
that
that's the thing.
give a shout out to James Ramsey has pointed out to me. If you want to go really aggressive, you can take 3 units with skirmish and Ring of Fury on a unit champion, and then a single unit of Silver Helms with a Ring of Fury, and that gives you 4 Rings of Fury in core. 3 of them have 360-degree line of sight charging, and also like a very good long range.
Yeah.
And it all comes to exactly 500 points. Now, I hate that because they will fall apart as soon as you look at them, but it is
Yeah.
theoretically something you could do if you wanted.
Yeah, I actually I won an event the other week in near Edinburgh, playing High Elves, and I had a unit of Valyrian Reavers with Ring of Fury because my thought process was these guys are most often outside of the spell range.
Yeah.
They've got a 9-inch 360 charge Swift Stride. They can get onto targets. They can clean up chaff like nothing else. And yeah, it kind of played out. The Ring of Fury was always out of the spell range, and it tended to do a decent amount of damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. I run in the current like list that I've taken to WTC. I've got a unit of 6 with a unit champion and hammer hand ring, and they're fine. Aggressively fine, I would say, for a core unit.
Yeah.
Speaking of aggressively fine for a core unit, Silver Helms that I think
Yes.
go pretty much. I like them more, and I think it comes down to whether you value resilience or the sort of speed and flexibility that the Reavers bring. I quite like Silver Helms as a core unit. They're a source of a unit champion that I can charge in with my dragon, so that I'm not just immediately losing challenges to, losing the character to challenges. They bring first charge, which is really nice. Again, if you want to absolutely crumble an undead brick, you can just charge in the front of it. Jobs are good 'un. But I think other than that, they're not particularly exciting. They're just one of the core choices that you can take.
Yeah, I'd go with that. They're pretty bland.
Yeah. They've got Ilfamar Barding, so they're less likely to take casualties in terrain. So if your pack plays a lot of terrain that could cause them issues, difficult terrain, that's not bad.
And they got 8 moves Swift Stride. That's good.
That is good.
Weapon skill 4 lances with Elven Swiftness. That is also good. Like they are good, and comparatively with heavy model, other heavy cavalry models in the game, they're quite good value for money. They're not nuts in terms of cost. Coming from 8th, where they were the ultimate core dump because they had 2+ armor, and it was just an amazing way to spend your core. The drop to 3 has like decimated how I would have played with them back in 8th. But yeah, I mean they're heavy, reasonably good core heavy cavalry that has good movement, first charge, all the usual things at a reasonable price. And as you say, it's these guys in Illyrian Reavers, most competitive high elf lists. The entire core budget is spent between these 2 units of cavalry, and it depends how you want to play the game, which one you're leaning into more.
Yeah, absolutely. Corvlant has a good point. You can't get 3 units of Reavers with Skirmish. Skirmish is a 0 to 1 per 1,000 points. That is a good point. I haven't actually written the list together. I guess you go 2 Reavers with Skirmish, 1 without Skirmish, and then 1 Silver Helms, and all with a Ring of Fury. But yeah, so Silver Helms for me, I like them a bit more. I think they cover the weaknesses of High Elf Army a little bit better, in that they are incredibly squishy and they take more. They're not a good Ruby Ring of Ruin target, for example. So you can leave them a little bit more on a flank and not have to worry about protecting them. But they're there. They're only there because they're core. Speaking of a unit that you don't see but probably would see if they were core, we've got Dragon Princes. I think these are better than people think they are. I also think they're not good enough to play. Which is, I think, honestly, before the Arcane Journal, I think they were probably one of the better things you could do. If you weren't playing the Sisters list, I think they were one of the better things you could do with your non-core, non-character points, because you could just go for a full pressure list where you go, here's a dragon and a griffin, or 2 dragons. Here's my core silver helms, and I'm just going to push my board towards you. I'm going to go 4 and 1 because at one point I'm going to come up against one of the many things that deals with me, and I can't outplay it because I've got an impetuous army that just full sends towards you.
Yeah.
However, we now have actually good things that we can do with our non-core points, or I guess we had them already if you were willing to play not a dragon. They just not having him. If they didn't have impetuous, I think I'd be very high on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think. Well, I love them.
Okay.
They're, as in, conceptually, they're one of my favorite things in the list, and the lore, and everything about them just oozes high elf, and I absolutely love them, and the models are insane. I love that, and they are very good. They do have 2 attacks each, which is really good. They have 5 weapon skill, 5 initiative, +1, 9 leadership. These are good things. 2 armor, 6 ward. These are good things. Ithilmor barding, Ithilmor weapons, useful. Ithilmor barding is amazing on them because losing heavy cavalry to terrain is devastating.
When it's 40
and these
points
guys
model.
re-rolling it,
it
is great. Drilled is just insane. One of the greatest rules in the game. Counter charges is with these guys, particularly counter charge is amazing because of how high their initiative is. Your average counter charge, these dudes are ending up at 9 initiative.
Sure.
So they're quite good into a lot of what you see commonly in the game now. Bretonians, if these guys get the chance to counter charge Peg Knights, they just smash them. The tournament I won with High Elves that I just mentioned, I had 9 Dragon Princes in the list. I had, I think I had Rampaging Banner on them just to play with the Impetuous a bit. I had Cloak of Beards for that terror. But where they really work is, and I think is in a Sisters list, because the range pressure the Sisters are exerting on your opponent, they're obliged to come forward, and they're obliged to walk into range of this unit that with drilled and with movement 8 can get on target. With someone who's forced to come forward, these guys can just wait, and they're very easy to charge block. If you're worried about impetuous with Sisters, you just string a bunch of Sisters in front of them and you deal with it that way.
Sure.
Very expensive, very good, but yeah, when you're spending 1,000 points on characters, 500 points on core, it's kind of difficult to get these guys. And in a competitive setting, I think you'd want to put the full 500 points you have left in your army into them. You want a big unit so that it doesn't just give up its points to an Unquiet Spirits just wipes them off the board out of nowhere,
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, in my experience of playing with them, they're an A unit because they're so good. And they work very well with my play style. But in reality, they're obviously a B tier.
Okay, I'm happy to move them up. We can stick them in sort of probably below the core cavalry because that has an actual reason to take it. Probably below archers.
Because ultimately they are very good, and they do one thing very well, which is just explode undead.
True.
They go through undead like a knife through butter.
Okay.
And that is useful because there's a lot of undead armies at tournaments.
I think you rate them more highly than me, but you've also got actual tournament play practice with them, so I will respect your view on them.
They would be awful in your list, I think.
Sure.
I think they work with the Sisters because for the reasons I described, I think they work better in my play style.
I still any day of the week would swap them for Cold One Knights. If I could take Cold One Knights in High Elves, I'd be so happy. Oh, they're so good. Even with the stupidity, I'll still put them in all my lists.
Yeah.
But that takes us to the end of the cavalry, and now we've got chariots. Now, I don't rate the turnout chariot particularly highly, but we do have a teammate who does. I know Sam likes running a big unit of 4.
Yeah, he loves it.
And he's done pretty well with it. How do you feel about the turnout chariots?
I've no play experience with them. As I look at them in the book, I just say no, thank you. I'm moving on.
Me too.
If they were core, absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
And a bit weird they're not. I feel like that is so clearly a core unit. But yeah, to be honest, I just move on. But yes, Sam has a lot of success, and I like I really like the concept of, the big unit of them, and it's a lot of wounds. It's toughness 4, that's nice. Has a bit of an armor save, and if they do connect on an enemy core unit, they will win that fight. I wonder, you could put them up to toughness 5 with a BSB on a chariot with them.
Yeah,
That's cool. That has some play. But yeah, if it weren't for Sam's success with the unit, and the concept of putting them in a big unit is good, I would say they were unpickable trash, down with the spearmen. But because I've seen them work in other people's hands, I give them some respect.
You know what's really sad? You can't put a wizard on them. If you could put a wizard on them, I think I would do that. Mostly to bunker in heavy cavalry. Not necessarily to run solo, but there is a world where you might run them solo. But yeah, there's just no way to put a character like a wizard on them, which sucks. I do resent that. So I guess legally we have to put them at the bottom of B, I think.
Yeah, but Sam's not on this stream, so let's put them in C.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't need much sway. I was like, I know objectively they've got to be kind of okay because he makes them work, but like I can't.
I think we're wrong, but it's our tier list, so they're going in C.
I like how normally I try to be, as the title jokingly suggests, objectively correct. This time we've kind of just thrown objectivity a little bit to the wind, and we've gone, you know what, these are the things we like, and it doesn't matter, but they're going to be a little better than they should be. Speaking of a little better than it probably should be, the White Lion Chariot. Now, I am generally not a Chariot fan unless you put something on top of it, which I think is really the case for White Lions. But I think the White Lion Chariots are pretty okay character mounts. Obviously, they fall off a little bit now that there's the actual Lion Chariot mount that you can put the Corhill and the Chracian Lord or whatever he's called on.
Yeah.
But if we're realistically just rolling them all into one, because they are effectively the same thing, balanced slightly differently, just so they don't give Corhill too many wounds, I think they're fine. They seem okay. I probably still wouldn't run any of them solo, because it's just... I know you said T4 is okay when you're talking about the Terranot Chariots. T4 I just don't love, especially on something with 4 wounds.
On a heavy chariot, it's a bit rough.
It just dies to a fireball. It's...
Yeah. They are again, in isolation, they are good. They do hit hard.
Yeah.
It is a heavy chariot. It does have 2 white lions on the back. It has 2 lions drawing it. These are good things. The problem is the points that you're paying when you compare it to Beastmen chariots or Chaos chariots with 5 toughness, Chaos chariot 3 up armor save, and you're paying 125 points to the White Lion chariot. It's just an outrage. It's such a rip-off. The price is ludicrous. What you're paying, what you get. You compare it to Beastmen and Chaos. It's an outrage.
Yeah.
Early in the edition, there was a piece of data. I can't remember the site that did it, where it was essentially looking at the win rates of models or units.
Okay.
If winning lists had this, and the White Lion Chariot was the highest win rate High Elf piece, probably due to poor data sample.
There'll be one really good player who just loved using it.
Yeah, it did make me look at it again. I played a High Elf on table 1, game 3 of a one-dayer, and he had 2 nobles on White Lion Chariots. And I was playing undead, and they were very, very scary to me because obviously that's in that situation, playing as vampire counts, that is a terrifying thing to face because it's got first charge and it can blow up your units with crumble. It's a good model. It costs too much, and there's other things to spend it on.
Yeah, so I think realistically, fine. But I don't want to put it in B, so top of C tier is probably where it goes.
Yeah, I think like Tyrannoc, we're probably wrong, but I'll put it in C as well. It's a protest thing about the points cost.
Yeah, like if you look at the cost of the Black Orc Chariot as well, like that was what really got me going. Oh, Chariot, Black Orc Chariot and Chosen Chariots. Those
Yeah.
two, I'm like, man, these things, I want to fit them into my list. And I've played a lot of games with both of them. And honestly, both of them, still not great, but they have so many more rules than the White Lion Chariot
Yeah.
that I just can't see a chariot with, 2 models with a single attack on the back, that with like no other
Yeah.
real
If they
exciting
miss,
rules.
if those two guys miss, which is not there's only 2 attacks,
Yeah.
you're done.
Sorry, when those 2 guys miss, because
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
realistically, if you're rolling 2 attacks, you're not getting any hits. That's just maths. That's how that works. But then we've got, and I think we might disagree on this one, the Lothan Skycutter. The Lothan Skycutter is the exception to my not running non-character mounted chariots, and that is because it's fast and it doesn't have to commit forwards to make use of it. I use it as a point style piece that sometimes shoots and then sometimes comes in, does a supporting charge, gets a flank charge, all of that stuff. I think they're fantastic. I really like them. They're so cheap as well. A Swift Stride Heavy Chariot for 90 points. I do play around with the bow, but honestly, you could probably take the bolt thrower off the top and not be too upset about it. I think they're really solid. I want to put it in A, but I am here to listen to your opinion.
No, they're 100% high A tier for me.
Oh, amazing! I'm glad we don't.
I don't play with them.
Yeah.
But 90 points for Fly 10 Swiss Stride Heavy Chariot. When you compare it to the 125 points of the Lion Chariot, and the Lothan Chariot is just better in every way, and it costs 35 points less.
Yeah.
It's have to be asked.
It's so good.
They're insane. Value for money is out of this world. No, they're superb, and the bow is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a multi-wound, high strength, high AP, and it lets you play them in a different way. Pretty good in a GT, right? Because some games you want to play them like chariots, and some games you want to play them to shoot stuff. No, I think Lothan Skycutters are a clear A. Just the points, man.
Yeah.
They're just nuts.
Corvalent points out S tier ignoring Horn. Even in the Bretonnian matchup, they're not awful if you take the bow, because especially for playing against Grand Army, which I think we're seeing a lot of people skew towards at the moment. You go first, you move to where you want to be, you shoot your bow, they come towards you, you shoot your bow again, they charge you, you Swift Stride flee, so you still go a fairly ridiculous distance despite having a movement characteristic of 1. They're not anywhere near as bad as you'd think they are. You're not excited to see Bretonnians when you're playing them, but you go, oh, you know what, sure. I have a good chance of just skewering a Peg Knight here. You better hope
as long as you have your bow.
Save. Yes, yeah. But
that's why I think in a tournament setting you take the bow, because there will be Bretonnians and you will play them.
Absolutely. There's probably a world where you could try and do some sort of weird tech with chariot spam, because you've got the most different types of chariots. So maybe you just go heavy on heavy chariots, including character mounted ones, and you just go heavy into impact hits. Maybe that's like the Vampire Count's counter of my dreams that I should be building towards.
No, that would be pretty awesome.
We should start.
And they also make good. They make good character mounts as well. It should be said the prince with the white sword from Monstrous Killing Blow, strength 7 on a Skycutter is cool.
It is cool. I can't argue with that. The fact they have 360 line of sight because it's a chariot for wizard casting means that you can also just put like a blaster caster on there. I don't think that's a
illusion mage with the white sword.
So that's the good one. But you could also just go battle magic with a ruby ring and like a ward save and a regen. And I don't think that's a good use of your time. But you could do it. It's there.
Yeah.
It's an option. Cool. Speaking of things that can be mounts, and I need you to center me on this one, because I'm going to rate these more lowly than I think they probably should be. I'm a Phoenix hater. I am not on board. I'm not on the Phoenix train. Do you want to walk us through what the Phoenixes do? You can just go through them together if you want.
Yeah. So we got the 2 Phoenixes, the Flame Spire for 170 points, 205 points for the Frost Heart. Frost Hearts are, I mean, they both have jobs, and they both can be useful in a world where everyone. So the problem is the meta, not the model. Everyone is speccing to kill dragons, and what kills a dragon kills a phoenix, but really easily. If people weren't speccing to kill dragons, the phoenixes would be much better. You've got the Frost Arc has has a dragon stat line almost: 6 toughness, 6 strength, 6 weapon skill, full plate. It gives a strike last aura, which is cute, especially with elves. It's a nice combination with elves. They both phoenixes suffer from a real lack of damage. They just don't do that much damage. The Frostheart is strength 4, 4 attacks. Flame Spire is 3 attacks. Neither is a Behemoth, so their stomps don't have AP. They really suffer for damage. What is cool about them is when they're mounted. So early in the edition, I used to run a Frostheart Phoenix with an Archmage on top with the Null Stone, because he has Veteran, because he's anointed of Assyrian on the Phoenix.
Okay.
And the Null Stone makes you untargetable by magic, and it basically is it's giving everyone around him -1 to cast, so it's +1 to spell. And he's re-rolling it because he's Veteran. It's a leadership test to use this thing. So that was really cool. It was very powerful, especially his illusion, because you want to get close with illusion. Very short range lore.
Sure.
Works very well with Lilia's Blessing because you're casting Mirage first every time. That's an 11+. So giving this guy Null Stone and illusion was really toxic. You just grief games with it. Yeah, but then people start speccing into dragon hunting so much, it became a bit of a challenge.
Bretonia at all.
Yeah.
Where they're like,
Anyway,
so I'm not going to cast spells on you.
Yeah.
You can only move 2, as opposed to 6 for like a griffin or a dragon if I hit
Yeah.
the horn. And you want to be close to me, but your only immunity is to the thing that I don't bring. Neat.
Yeah. No, it's grim. So they have absolutely no place at a tournament where you're going to run into things like that.
Sure.
But in a 1v1, hey, I'm playing this game, they can be they're really fun as well. They're really cool.
Yeah.
And the Flame Spire, when you do land the 6 and it comes back to life, one of the funnest moments you can have in Warhammer when some guy gets a monstrous killing blow on your level 4 in a Flame Spire, and then you roll a 6 and just come back to life. Is nice.
And then because you've lost combat by like 7 points, you break and flee, and they chase you down anyway.
Maybe.
Maybe, of course. My apologies. There is a world you rolled a double 1.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful world, and I love the vision that you got for it.
Yeah. No, but yeah, competitively, neither of the Phoenixes can exist and must be sent to the bin.
Yeah.
But they are good.
I
They
think
just don't exist competitively.
I think if I'm being reasonable, if you wanted to do some sort of toughness skew flying list, the Frostheart Phoenix is playable. Because it is, T6 with full plate, right?
There's the Monster Mash.
Yeah.
There's the Monster Mash list where you got the Dragon, you got the Griffin, double Frostheart in rare. That works. That is a list that works.
I think the thing that bums me out about it the most is that it's only +3 wounds. It's 205 points for a Frostheart Phoenix, but for 130 points, I can get the same number of wounds on a Griffin. But why would I take the Phoenix? I understand there are some extra rules there, but it's not good enough for that extra 75 points. And then I think the Flame Spire Phoenix is just relegated to the not today, down in F tier, unless you...
Yes.
Cool. Speaking of things that I want to put in F tier, the Merworm. Now, I don't think it is F tier, but I am disappointed. It was one of those that when they teased it, they said, "Oh, it's got these rules. Here's the rule where things in base to base with it have lower toughness." I was like, "Okay, well that's written poorly, and also I know how Games Workshop works. This probably means that they're not going to be like super high toughness." So I was really worried it was going to be a T5 unit, and it ended up being T6. It's 6s across the board, 225 points. It doesn't have fly. It doesn't have swift stride. It doesn't have a regen. It doesn't really have anything I care about. It's a Hell Pit Abomination, basically, but it doesn't have the random move, and it's slightly tankier. I'm not in love with this model at all.
Yeah, it's a shame, right?
Yeah.
You bring this incredible model back. You do a lot of your marketing around the Arcane Journal on this incredible model. You are a Warhammer expert because you make the game. You must understand the profile you've put down and the points cost you're putting down next to it in the competitive setting makes it unplayable.
Yeah.
It baffles me that they would choose to do this. It's really unfortunate. Again, it's technically good, right?
No, not
It
even.
has 6 toughness, 6 wounds, 6 strength. D3 plus 1 stomps. I would prefer that to D6 personally. It's only 0.5 less on average, but it is more reliable.
Yeah.
Impact hits are fun. But yeah, it really struggles. You have to take Lothern to pick it up. It only has 5 armor. It has no regen. You're -2 to shoot it at long range. I like that. That's fluffy. That's interesting. That's cute. That's new.
And
It
it's
doesn't
going to be
mean
at long range
anything though.
all game because it only moves 6 inches.
Yeah, it's so slow. And when it does get there, it's got AP1. Why on earth does this not have Wicked Claws for 225 points? Every monster in the game, every behemoth, they're all packing something cool. This boy's got Lashing Talons AP1. God help us all. This
How does a
as a
talon
package
even lash? Like, that doesn't even make sense. You have a lashing tail. You don't have lashing talons. Anyway, sorry. Continue.
As a package, it's really cool. And the Enfeebling Cold, so the -1 strength, is quite powerful, right? If you combo this with a Dragon v Dragon challenge, it's like a budget warp fire. It goes into base, and now his Dragon has -1 strength, and his Lord has -1 strength. It's got that element to it. That is quite powerful. -1 strength is a very strong ability when it's applied. Problem is he's so slow, he's going to struggle to apply it.
Yeah.
It's so easy to kill him with shooting and whatnot. He struggled to apply it. What this needed to be was 170, 160 points, like your gigantic spawns.
Yeah.
Now he's got some play. Now we can take this model in our armies. Now we got this strength, toughness 6 wounds thing that is a threat on the board, and it can die, and it's not the end of the world. If this was costed like it should be, like a gigantic spawn, it would see play and no one would complain. It wouldn't be broken. It wouldn't be overpowered. But you've put it at 225 points and you've made the thing literally useless out of nowhere.
I think I'd try and make them work if they had a secondary save. If
Yeah.
they had like a 5-up regen or something like that, I'd be like, you know what? Pricey, but I could see this working and just using them as like a wall of beef. But 6 wounds with T6 and a 5-up armor save is actually not tanky. It sounds like it should be, but it will fall over surprisingly quickly.
7 toughness, immune to multi-wound. There's things they could have done to make this work.
Oh, if you remember the article where they said flagellants are good and a couple of cannon shots will kill a dragon, they weren't thinking dragons, they were thinking merworms, which is understandable.
Yes, a couple of cannon shots will kill this.
A couple
100%
of vampire
of the time.
cannons will just ruin your day.
Yeah.
And they have many turns to shoot because it'll take a while to get there.
Yeah.
So,
no, a deep shame.
Yeah.
Because it's got so much character. It has 2 unique rules that don't exist anywhere else. It's really cool, but yeah. Rest in peace, Merworm.
I actually think it's worse than the Flamespire Phoenix, so it has to go in F tier, just by logic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sad. I really like it.
It's so sad.
Cool. But there is a monstrous creature that isn't in F tier, and that is the Great Eagle. And I don't think the game's in a state where we particularly want Great Eagles in our lists. However, it's just fine.
Yep. 60 points, thank you very much. Now that has wicked talons. Explain that.
Mate, have you ever been clawed by a bird?
I imagine it's more tender than a merworm, but somehow no.
Well, a merworm doesn't exist, whereas birds do exist. So therefore, that's why they've got AP2, because they're closer to actually doing damage because they exist. Yeah,
got it. Fair.
I mean, you live up near the coast, so
yes, I do.
You'll have had a scrap with a seagull at some point, even if it's only a mental scrap.
Yet to see a merworm.
Exactly. And if there was going to be anywhere, the northeast of England is exactly where they would be.
Yes.
Maybe Scotland, actually. But or Wales, I guess. Anyway, near the sea. Yeah, I think they're fine. And I think
these are great. They're real good utility piece. They can go after war machines and they will win that fight. They can frenzy bait.
Yeah.
They can march and column block. Yeah. And in the sisters, playstyle, I think they're extremely important because they form that backstop that can actually keep up when the sisters TMP around or double move around. These guys can track the enemy dragon and just provide that cozy backstop to stubborn back through. They're a really, really good utility piece, and for 60 points, they belong in every list, and yet they are in none.
Yeah.
Just because the way the army plays, you just don't feel like you need them. You've got so much mobility. You've got so much. You can threaten war machines, and you don't really care about war machines anyway. You can bait frenzy. But yeah, in the sisters list, these are pretty good as that backstop for stubborn.
Yeah, I think that's super reasonable. I put them sort of mid B. Would you put them any higher than that?
I'd lead them to the high B, based on for what you're getting for 60 points is sensational, and they do a lot of jobs that, again, it's from the sisters' point of view. They're really good in the sisters list. So for me, they go high B, but that's just for the sisters playstyle.
I think that's super reasonable because it's the only sort of place that I'm really seeing them at the moment. So I'm not upset at putting them up there in the context of where they're actually played. I think they are solid, and I think, again, if the game changes to a world where we see less of the big stuff and more of the ranked up units, they become more valuable. Like great charge redirectors. If your opponent's running units of actual infantry, they're such a nightmare to deal with. You're just like, oh, I'm just going to stand in front of you at an angle. What are you going to do? Take a whole turn off? Sucks to be you, buddy. You're never catching me. I got 3 dice on the runaway, which is always solid.
Yeah, you think it's a skirmishing unit, but it's closed order, so it fully redirects chargers.
Absolutely. And thank you to someone who said in the chat, which I've just missed, Matt3452. Not only have I forgotten the White Lions, there's also the, what they called, not Lion Guard, the... oh no, they are called Lion Guard.
The Lion Guard, yeah.
We've missed 2 fairly forgettable units. How could we possibly do that? So, the actual White Lions, the units themselves, because I think that's the more interesting one. I don't hate them. I think they're a solid little skirmish unit, and actually talking about them as we were talking about the Eagles, I think they can do a fairly similar sort of job. So I said skirmish. They don't have skirmish, but they do a sort of skirmish role, is what I mean. Yeah. How do you feel about the War Lions, I should say?
Yeah, the War Lions. Quite cheap for the job they do. They're like saber tusks in that role. I've not played them. I don't think many people have a lot of play experience with them, but on paper, I like them as a little tech piece. You take a small unit of 2, and you're always going to find a way to use something like that. There's going to be a war machine to go after. There's going to be a frenzy to bait. There's going to be a marching column drill to block. These sorts of things. So they're kind of useful. Yeah, I don't mind.
Even just using them as a very cheap source of removing or like giving yourself your unit cover, something like that, is aggressively fine, I think. And obviously, Warhounds are really good. Just using them as pseudo Warhounds, albeit significantly more expensive per model, so it's a little harder.
But that's the High Elf way.
Of course, that is the High Elf way. So when I load them in, what do we reckon? Probably talking something along the lines of mid B tier, mid to low B tier.
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable as well. I'm just getting a picture for them, and also the Lion Guard. Now, the Lion Guard, do you have strong feelings on these? Because if you don't, I think you should.
Never played them. Ignoring the points cost and where they sit in the army composition.
That's why I think you should have strong feelings on them.
Yeah, but they are sensationally good. They've got all sorts of rules. They have furious charge. They hit hard. They're very good. But points cost, army composition placement, etc., F tier. But my word, I'd love to play a pure trace list with a big unit of these dudes. It would be so fun.
I'm on board with them being incredibly fun thematically.
Yeah.
But in terms of actual playability,
get them in the bin.
Get them in the bin. And I'm just Let me add some images here. And that leaves us to not very much left. In fact, I think we've only got the one, which is the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. So Line Guard can go down here. Warline can go to there. Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. These things are made out of tissue paper, which I know is like very elf, but like, God, they're so squishy. It's 2 wounds on a war machine. Feels pretty wrong. And also the volley fire they have, the multi-shot mode, whatever that's called, is just mathematically kind of crap.
Yeah.
Which
rest in peace, sweet prince. These guys were the absolute bane of all my my local gaming group in 8th edition, 7th edition, 6th edition. The multi-shot, it just applied so much trauma to people, and then putting them on the flanks, they're always paranoid about getting the shish kebab in the flank. They have 2 wounds because the model has 2 crew members. That's it.
That makes sense for the crew wounds, but it doesn't make sense for the war machine, which is objectively different.
Every other bolt thrower has 3 wounds.
I know, it's wild, isn't it?
And this one, because it comes, I'm pretty convinced it comes with 2 crew members, and the crew members are just wound counters now, right?
Yeah. This
one comes with 2 crew members. We'll give it 2 wounds, lads. That sounds great. They die to anything.
Yeah.
80 points is obscene.
Yeah.
When the goblin bolt throwers, what are they?
45.
45 points.
Yeah.
Mother of God.
Yeah.
It's just not okay.
Yeah.
But I will say, people who play against High Elves are probably very happy to see these things and their demise, because they were very good previously.
Sure.
It's just a real shame. And what I really expected from the Lothern list was one of the army rules would buff both Eagle Claw bolt throwers, because they are quintessential Lothern unit.
Sure.
They were atrocious and no one could play with them. So I thought this is a perfect opportunity for the guiding hand of Games Workshop to give a little fix to the bolt thrower. And, something as simple as in the Lothern list, they don't get -1 for long range, something like that. So they can see a little bit of play.
Yeah.
But they just can't see play. That unless you're taking 4 of them, so that you've got some consistent threat on chariots or weak, unequipped monsters or enemy war machines. I think you either take 4 or 0, and 4 is still terrible. But it can play. It will take things off the table. It will do that damage. But yeah, it's 360 points, I think. Yeah. That's brutal. That's a Warpfire Dragon almost.
Yeah. I think so. I don't like them, and I think they're a C tier unit, because if you want to put them in your list, I think you can find 80 points to put one in, and that kind of is fine. It's not like, if someone's probably not going to focus it, yes, it would be like a great place to try and spike up with Ruby Ring of Ruin or something like that. But if you just put it towards the back, if you get to shoot with it over the course of the game in a game that's not like super high powered, I think it's aggressively mediocre. And I can see someone taking it at that sort of points level. Oh, thank you.
Putting a cheeky 1 or 2 in the corner.
Sorry, I'm late. It took a long time in the lives of many slaves to tunnel through the open ocean to the floating island of
Elfan. In his deployment and movement.
Yes, yeah.
He is aware of where they are, and he's aware of offering a heavy cavalry flank to them or something. So that is powerful, and that you can't really show that. You can't really prove that out in the points of the game or the damage or whatever. But they will make your opponent move in slightly less optimal ways, and that is hard to quantify, and it is good.
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree with that. Which is why I think instead of going to F tier, they can sit in the C tier.
They're definitely not F. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on and joining me. We've talked at pretty great length about all of the units, and I think I now have all of the units on there, having not forgotten any of them. Nobody saw anything. Shut up. Is there anything on there that you think needs to be tweaked? I think our favourite units that's had a little bit of, a day in the sun, we did end up moving down. Is there anything else that you disagree with that's sort of where it is currently?
No, I think we're set there. I think we nailed it. It is slightly biased, but it's also pretty much spot on. I think it's pretty reflective.
Perfect. So you've heard it here. We've got a High Elf expert tell us that it's good. There's going to be so many people arguing with me in the comments, or at least leaving arguments in the comments. I don't necessarily argue back, but that's just because it's the internet. But if you made it to this point of the video, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed. We'll be back in the next 2 weeks' time. There'll be another tier list about something interesting, exciting, and important, I'm sure, while also being objectively correct.